it's looking as if it's becoming a more apparent that men are winning and becoming more crafty in order to pass women's filters and intuition, right? And they don't know how to handle it. I'll go one for, what's your name? Bobby Sour Juice. Mr. Sour Juice. I'll go one more. I'll do you one better. I think you're right, but I'll do you one better here. I think that the red pill is something that is, I've always said this, but I think that it is threatening to women's life plans. Because what happens is if I go and I show you, let's see where to go. If I go and I show you this timeline right here, this is out of my second book, The Rational Male, Preventative Medicine. It is the sleeper hit of the series. Everybody loves this book for some reason, and I think I know why. Because it's really applicable. So this is actually the timeline that forms the basis of probably more than half of the book, okay? And once women get into that epiphany / transition phase, they're waiting for guys who are still kind of ignorant of the game. They want a guy who's on his way to becoming successful. They want a guy who's going to be like he's going to have potential to be like, once she gets into her like mid-30s, like the security phase, that's when women are looking primarily for long-term security. That's why I call it security phase. And so they still want a guy who's good looking. Don't get me wrong, but they need a guy who's good looking. They need a guy who's financially stable. They need a guy who's loyal. They need a guy with emotional intelligence, meaning that he's like invested in her emotionally. They want a guy who has at least the potential for parental investment. He's got provisioning, protection, parental investment. He's got like puppy dogs, rainbows, Disneyland, wants kids in the future. Mom and dad like him. My sister likes him. My brothers like him. My dog licked his hand when he came in the door. Those, like all of that kind of stuff. There's this laundry list. Royce used to call it the 436 bullet point checklist. Now, of those 436 bullet points, I don't know why it was 436, but of those bullet points, man's got to meet the criteria of maybe 4 or 5 of those. Like those are the absolute like deal breakers. And it's usually good looking, congruent, so can socialize, status, prestige, social proof, pre-selection. I'm just going to say pre-selection. So those rank in order of importance depending on where that woman is on this timeline right here. So like I said, when a girl is like 15 and she's in high school all the way up until she's about 23, physicality like features huge, because a girl doesn't care too much about how much a guy makes, because she's not really looking for long-term security in those years. She's just looking for the hot guy. Even the hot guy is his own status symbol. So if you want to say, well, it's about status, yeah, well, status in that sense is I got with the quarterback of the football team, right? So you're looking at a woman who's getting to her peak, let's see, sexual market value, which you can see right here. This is from this is from my first book. This is the infamous Rational Male sexual market value scales, that my very loose. It's funny is people gave me so much shit about this when I first did this. Like, this is very unscientific. Show me the proof. Where just cite sources on? I didn't have any at the time. This is just what I could see from my observations. And then later on throughout the years, and remember, this is like from back in like, I think I put this out in 2012 or 2010, something like that. And I was doing it sort of tongue in cheek at the time because everybody was doing these graphs. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do a graph. I put it in Adobe Illustrator. And that's really what that was in. And then just put it out there. But since then, it has been verified over the years by other research. And so I try to collect all of the research that sort of reinforces and backs this up. And I've got various, sources here, and maybe someday, and maybe in a future book, I'll actually put those in there. But again, I got a lot of that was verified, but you're looking at women who want certain things at certain times. And when they get to be about 28, 29, 30, 31, somewhere in there, that's where competition anxiety hits. And that's where the epiphany phase and the transition phase hits. And what I mean by that is the epiphany is I'm not going to be able to keep up this pace that I have been since I was 23. I need to find a guy who has provisioning, protection, and parental investment. So I'm going to go one better for you, Mr. Sour Juice. I'm going to tell you this is that the red pill makes men aware of that timeline. And women can't have that. They need a guy who's dumb. And I don't mean like dumb as in he has to be ignorant of the game, the life plan that she has. He has to subscribe to a religion. He has to subscribe to a way of like a blue pill ideology or a way of thinking, mindset, I guess. He has to be ignorant of the game. He has to be ignorant of the red pill. And the red pill exposes the timeline. It exposes the phase that she's in. It exposes her game. And that's what throws these that you want to, and I think maybe right about now in 2025, I think a lot of people are coming to realize that if the red pill is destroying marriages or it's destroying boyfriend, girlfriend, like any kind of relationship, stuff like that, or if it clashes with the ideas of Matt Walsh and marriage, then it's a dangerous ideology. And it's not about it's not an ideology at all. It's just making guys aware of what's going on. But it has to become an ideology. You have to make the red pill an ideology because it's the only way that they can fight it. They can't fight the data. They can't fight the empirical logic behind it. They can't fight the stats. They can't fight the data. They can't fight the research. So the only way they can do that is, one, turn it into an ideology, turn it into a movement. That's why the first thing I do whenever anybody who is ignorant of the red pill says, Rollo, tell us about the red pill ideology. Rollo, tell us about the red pill philosophy. Tell us about the red pill movement. Tell us about the red pill psychology. Tell us about the red pill beliefs. Tell us about the red pill cult. And the first thing out of my mouth is it's a praxiology and not an ideology. Because the moment I do that, I pull it away. I pull it off the belief table. I pull it off of the philosophy table. Because the only way you can fight that information or that data is to turn it into a belief set. My belief set is superior to your belief set. So here's what I'm going to do. It's not a belief set. Once you pull that away and say, look, it's just a textbook. Ryan Stone and I have referred to the red pill as the Chilton manual of intersexual dynamics. What's a Chilton manual? They used to be these manuals that would like show you how to take apart a particular car, like a 69 Volkswagen, and it would show you just down to every component, every lug nut, every bolt, every cam, every shock, every thing, the windshield wipers, the door handles, the steering wheel, everything was just parted out, and it would show you how to take the car apart and how to put it back together. And that was the Chilton manual. Now, the red pill is the Chilton manual of intersexual dynamics. And even if it's not entirely 100% complete, it's doing its best to be complete. And the problem that people have is they can't fight that. They can't say you're wrong, Rollo, because it's just data. It's just showing them like, here's the stats. And you know what? We don't write anything in pen. We write it in pencil. So if something confounds something earlier, then, that's not part of the Chilton manual. We're going to erase that part and we're going to put the new part in. We can still do that. That's part of the scientific process. And that's the problem that people have is that they think that just by doing that, it's in some way a belief set. It's like, it's not a belief set. Well, you think that it serves human good to release this stuff and to show people this data. You wouldn't be showing it to them if you didn't think that they were going to it's going to in some way affect their lives. Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to blow themselves up too. It could be used for human ill. But it is what it is. The data is what it is. The facts are what they are. I'm a factual absolutist when it comes to the red pill. Now, if you ask me off camera or shit on camera sometimes, if you ask me, what do you think about this, Rollo? I'll be happy to give you what I think would be best practice. I'll give you my opinion of what I think about that data set. But what I'm giving you is not the red pill. I'm giving you Rollo Tomasi's opinion of what this data set says. I'm an analyst in that sense. I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying, here's my interpretation of this. Sure, I'll give it to you. That's why people are like floored whenever I say, I really don't care about women's body count. I know what the facts are. I've done those shows. I did the original show with Myron Gaines back in 2022. We've done this. We've covered this before. We did a full show on grape statistics. Nobody remembers that. Nobody wants to talk. They will at some point, I'm sure. because it'll come back in vogue. Like Drew Afwalo will start talking shit about us again, and we'll just go back over it again, I'm sure. Because everything comes full circle. But I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm just going to tell you what the data says. I'm just going to and let people sort of use that. But the problem is you can't tell people facts without telling how to feel about them. But if you ask me about stuff, I'll give you my opinion. I'll tell you what I think best practices are. Hell, I used the red pill to improve my life. And other people have used it to save their lives, save their marriages, save their relationships. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that the red pill has saved and improved more men's lives than it has been poisoned. Oh, you're poisoning your relationship. Maybe the relationship was pretty fucked up in the first place, and the catalyst for it breaking up like it should have was reading the Rational Male, reading some or watching some red pill content. Maybe it was on its way out anyways, and that was just the catalyst. Maybe that was what actually saved that dude's life, because if he had stayed in that relationship, he probably would have put a gun to his head. We don't know. But I can sure as shit show you testimony after testimony about how my work and how the red pill has saved men's lives. In fact, I would say there are far more instances of men saving their lives as a result of reading my work or being involved in red pill, the manosphere, now or in the past, than there are of relationships that have been like in some way, like good relationships being in some way destroyed by them. I would talk to a guy. I talked to one of my guys who's in Reignite. I'm not going to name his name, but he was in a very precarious situation in his relationship with his wife. And now he even introduced his wife to like my work. She's read my work, and now she's fully on board. And she is like a different person now because she gets it. It was explained to her. You don't hear those stories coming from these asshats who are trying to build a brand on shitting on the red pill. They're only going to give you one side of it. And the reason why they're doing that is because it conflicts with their life philosophy. It conflicts with their religion, literally in most cases. It conflicts with what doesn't feel good. It doesn't taste good for them, right? A lot of the stuff that I deliver doesn't taste good, or doesn't necessarily have to taste good or bad. But that's the case. Thank you for that. Sam, put that in the chat if you would. Confidence in the safety net. There's over 1,100 testimonial comments in the thread on that blog post I did, and guys literally saying, I had a date for offing myself, for deleting myself, and I read your work and I canceled that date, and I'm so glad for it because now my kids still have a father. I've had the guys who wrote those comments come up to me at the 21 convention and tell me that with tears in their eyes. So don't tell me that the red pill's poison. You can wipe your ass with that shit. You weren't there. I was. I've been doing this for 23 years now. I've got, for every story you could possibly throw at me, I've got 10 more that conflict with what you're talking